Word to your mother, my name's Steve, this channel is Fragrance Riches, and thank you for tuning in. As always, I love you for doing so. Now, I'm really excited today to bring you a brand new release from the house of Alexandria Fragrances. Of course, I'm talking about the much hyped Black Panther. So this is a clone of the much hyped and fucking expensive fragrance from Bulgari's Le Gem line, Tiger. Now, anybody that watches the channel regularly enough might remember that not that long ago I reviewed this, which is called Arrakis, and it's from the House of Spirit of Kings. Now, this is basically also a clone of Tiger. However, this is much cheaper. So Tiger, you're looking at about £250, £255 I think it is, where you can get this 100ml of Arrakis for about the £100 mark, a bit more, maybe 110. But if you shop around, you can actually get a discount code. Now, I've done a full review of this and compared it to the original because I did have a sample. I'm certainly not that much of a high roller to be buying Tiger, but I did do a full review against a sample, so I will link that video down below. So really the question has to be, how does a Black Panther compare to Arrakis? Because let's be honest, nobody's going to be spending 250 quid on Tiger unless you've got deep pockets. So I'm going to cut the bullshit, to be honest, and just say that this is a brilliant fragrance. It really, really is good. Now, when I first sprayed this, actually, well, my very initial first impression was one of disappointment because the sprayer on some of the Alexandria bottles is a bit like, it reminds me of one of those farts that your girlfriends do when they're sort of trying to sneak it out with you out, you know, and it's a bit kind of, that's kind of what it reminds me of. It just doesn't feel like it's a strong jet, it's more of a, but anyway, that aside, when I first sprayed this, it smelt really good. It got a full-on kind of wow, that is really good. And straight away I did think this smells better than Arrakis, and that wasn't kind of wearing it side by side, that was just purely from memory. But I will get onto the comparison in a little bit more detail in a mo. But it is a really, really good smelling fragrance. As Arrakis and as Tiger, it's got a very simple breakdown. So you're looking at basically ambroxan, grapefruit, and that's what the others two state, but Alexandria do say this has got woody notes as well, which kind of makes sense. So it's got a very simple formula. So what I will say is if you're looking for a very complex, weird, wonderful, deep, heavy kind of fragrance, then this isn't it. This is very much a simple, everyday, signature scent type fragrance. But it does kind of deviate a little bit from Tiger and Arrakis. So the first thing you'll notice when you compare these side by side is that Black Panther has got a much stronger initial projection. It's a lot livelier and it really zings off the skin, and it's just a lot more noticeable compared to Arrakis. Now, when I first reviewed Arrakis, I was a little bit disappointed by the projection. I found that it was okay, you kind of got wafts of it throughout the day and it did last a long time, but the projection was a little bit lacking. You're not going to get noticed from meters away, you're not going to fill a room, which I commented at the time does make it quite good for an office fragrance. Black Panther is a different story. You have to be careful that you don't over apply because it's a lot livelier, it has a much stronger projection and it really pushes out. So yeah, projection wise, Alexandria beats it by far, and it's a lot more noticeable and it's a lot stronger. Longevity wise, they are pretty similar. They both last easily a full day, 7-8 hours comfortably, if not more, and even more so if you spray on clothes. I put some Black Panther around my neck and the next day I could still smell it on my jumper the next morning, so it does really last. But so does Arrakis, to be fair, so longevity is really good. But during those many hours that they both last, Black Panther will be a lot more noticeable and a lot stronger, and you'll get strong projection within the first sort of 3 hours. So again, projection, it's definitely Black Panther, and longevity is definitely better on Black Panther. So how do they smell and how do they compare, and which one is better is now probably what you're wondering. Now, they've obviously both got very similar DNAs. They've both got ambroxan, they've both got grapefruit, and Alexandria do also list woody notes in theirs. Now, they do smell noticeably different, but again, they're very similar and they're both really enjoyable. So I think if you like one, you'll like the other. It's more about kind of how they use those notes and the balancing between those two notes. So Arrakis in comparison, as I said, compared to the original, the grapefruit is a bit sharper and a little bit more tart, and it's a bit stronger, and the ambroxan is kind of a little bit less compared to the original Tiger. But it's a lot softer in its projection, and it's a lot kind of a more softer, subtle fragrance. And as it starts drying down into the mids, it starts getting it's more powdery than Alexandria, and it's not as, because the grapefruit isn't as strong and noticeable, it just comes across as a little bit more powdery and a little bit kind of more of a cleaner sort of office style fragrance. It's kind of, I guess, more of a blue fragrance. I don't mean blue in aquatic, I mean blue in the traditional sort of shower gel office type fragrance. Where to me, Black Panther, because of the grapefruit being a lot kind of stronger and more noticeable, and the dry down is not as kind of powdery as Arrakis, it's a bit more musky, and the grapefruit comes across as a little bit sweeter. It's more noticeable, but it's kind of a little bit sweeter and a bit more musky. So for me, Black Panther starts kind of going more into the realms of freshy kind of territory. So I know those kind of lines are blurred because they basically mean the same fucking thing, but I'm sure you'll kind of get what I'm saying. This is more of a blue style office type fragrance like Bleu de Chanel, where this one is a kind of, in my head, because it's a lot stronger in the grapefruit, it makes it more of a kind of summer freshy type fragrance, which you could still wear in the office, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely more of a fresher fragrance than Arrakis. So which one do I prefer and which one do I recommend you get? It's got to be Black Panther. Just the performance, as I say, the longevity is very similar on both, but the projection is so much stronger in this. And it's got more of a wow factor. It's because that grapefruit is stronger and more noticeable, it's just got this more of a noticeable kind of wow. As I say, it is more of a freshy rather than a kind of office fragrance, but you could easily wear this in the office, don't get me wrong. But it's kind of got that wow factor, and that sort of musky, slightly sweeter fruitiness to it just means it's just got this more alluring, noticeable kind of like, wow, what are you wearing kind of vibe going on. Where Arrakis is a lot more subtle in its projection and in its formulation, if I'm honest. But it is a very good fragrance. And of course this, in effect, is cheaper because you can get smaller bottles. So I would totally recommend that you get Black Panther and don't do what I did and spend £100 on Arrakis. Annoying. So there you go, I would totally recommend Black Panther. I think it is one of the best releases from Alexandria in a long time. I would easily put it up there with Royal Equestrian, Hafez 1984. It is the sort of fragrance, certainly if you like fresh fragrances, I think this is a must, especially for the value for money proposition when you compare it to Tiger. And I didn't actually say it, but I actually think this smells better than Tiger in my opinion as well. So for me, it's a no-brainer, and I think you should totally get Black Panther from Alexandria Fragrances. Thank you for watching. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, please hit that like button. I would love you muchly. And if you haven't already done so, it'd be great if you could hit that subscribe button. And don't forget, if you do plan on buying Black Panther or any other Alexandria fragrance, you can use the affiliate link down in the video description below. And that inadvertently supports my YouTube channel without you having to kind of give me any money. So that would be really cool. But, you know, don't feel obliged. If you don't want to, well, then fuck you. Thanks again for watching. I will see you for the next video. Take care. Much love.